Well, it has been 20 years since the attacks on 9/11, and many people still have very vivid memories of that infamous day. One of those people is our guest who joins us now, Grant Scanlen of Austin. He's got a very unique perspective on all of this. Grant, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, John. You're welcome.
So as I understand it, Grant, you were on a flight. You were headed from Chicago to Newark, New Jersey, and you actually witnessed the attacks as you were there in the air on that plane. Describe to us how things unfolded from your perspective.
Sure. I was living in Chicago and commuting to New Jersey back in those days about once a month. And that particular Tuesday, I was getting the red eye from Chicago to Newark. There was only about 25 of us on the plane, as I recall, a huge 757 jet, so pretty much an empty flight. It was a regular, normal flight for most of it until we started getting close to the New York City area. And just as we were coming down the west side of Manhattan Island, the pilot came on the intercom and said, excuse me, folks, I'd just like to tell you that the New Jersey Tower has told us that one of the World Trade Centers is on fire. And if you look out the left-hand side of the plane, you can clearly see that the North Tower has got smoke coming off it. So, of course, we, being an empty plane, we all jumped across to the left-hand side and had a look, and sure enough, we could see that the North Tower had a lot of smoke coming off it. So then we went, as we were closer into New Jersey, landing in New Jersey, we went out across the bay, made a U-turn to come back into the airport, and that brought us right down close to the bottom end of Manhattan Island. And so everyone jumped across the other side of the airplane to keep an eye on what was going on with the Trade Center fire. And as we were looking at the trade centers, all of a sudden there was a huge ball of flame and smoke on the South Tower. And I just remember thinking to myself, well, I've been up those towers, they're not that close together. How on earth did the fire spread from the North Tower to the South Tower? And within about, I'd say, 20 seconds, the plane began a violent ascent back up into the air. And the guy in front of me who'd been listening to Channel 9, which back in those days on United was the cockpit intercom, said, oh my God, the plane hit the World Trade Center. And so the guy in front of him started yelling, oh my God, we need to get on the ground, we need to get on the ground. And that was sort of the first indication that something pretty serious is going on.
And what went through your mind as you heard about this, but as you could literally see with your own eyes, what was happening to those towers?
At that point, not much, because we just assumed that it was a light plane. I mean, obviously, at that time, this was just unprecedented. So we assumed that a light plane had hit the towers, and that was what was going on. It wasn't until we actually got up to cruising altitude, the pilot came back on the intercom and said, well, folks, due to a terrorist attack on New York City, we'll be diverting to Philadelphia. So then we realized that something pretty serious is going on. But at that point, I think we all assumed it was just light planes. And then the pilot said, I asked the cabin crew to come forward. So they disappeared for a period of time. They sort of getting briefed on what they knew at the time. And also, of course, there were still planes in the air at that time that were unaccounted for. And so after some time, the flight attendants came back and obviously started checking out all the passengers, or the few of us that were there, no doubt sort of seeing if any of us were potentials.
Was there a concern on your part that your plane could maybe be part of this? I mean, a lot of us didn't know, would there be more attacks to come? Was there a concern that you and your other fellow passengers there were in danger?
No, not at all. Because as I say, I think at that time we all just assumed that it was light planes, and so we're looking out the window. But at that altitude, you're not going to have any light planes. It wasn't until I picked up the earphone and called my wife back in Chicago to tell her what was going on. And of course, she was watching all of this unfold on TV at the time, and she was absolutely freaking out. She said, "Oh my God, they're saying it could be commercial jets," and that's, I think, when I think we started getting a bit worried, but not that we were being hijacked, just we're looking out for commercial jets, coming towards us.
We just got about 30 seconds here. How does this affect you 20 years later? How does this do you live with this every day?
Not every day, but it is something I think about regularly. And obviously at this time of year, every 9/11, it's a somber day for me, remembering those that fell that day and didn't make it home. And I'm just thankful that I was one that did.
All right, Grant Scanlen, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate that, and really kind of keeps the memory alive of everything that happened that day. And thanks so much for talking to us.
You're welcome, John.